Are you ready for the truth? Bring it on!
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth?
I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Really glad you're here. Happy Monday to you. Everything's going great. I hope it's going well for you. Maybe a little chilly. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, proudly on. Say it with me now. EFR Talk. Well, interesting news. Hillary Clinton, she looks to be running for president in 2016, and she has a different point of view than about a year ago in a week of what difference does it make when it comes to Benghazi. Speaking in New Orleans to a conference of automakers, she had this to say. Roll it.
Any do-overs that you would, relative to Secretary of State?
Oh, sure. I mean, you make these choices based on imperfect information, and you make them to, as we say, the best of your ability, but that doesn't mean that there's not going to be unforeseen consequences, unpredictable twists and turns. My biggest, regret is what happened in Benghazi. It was a terrible tragedy, losing 4 Americans, 2 diplomats, and now it's public, so I can say 2 CIA operatives, losing an ambassador like Chris Stevens, who was one of our very best and had served in Libya and across the Middle East and spoke Arabic. And
what are your plans for 2016? Sorry.
Well,
I had to ask.
Yeah, you did. I understand. And I have to say, I don't know. Not a very satisfactory answer, I know.
No, not on the Benghazi, certainly not. And this would once again highlight the absurdity of Hillary Clinton being commander-in-chief when all that we know of Benghazi and the warnings leading up and her excuses and what difference does it make, I can't even deal with that right now. Nonetheless, I don't think she would have the confidence of the American soldier or the people serving. Of course, that is a buffet, take it, leave it. That would mean that people would actually have to know about Benghazi, understand Benghazi and what it was and how the president lied, and still ask, where was the president? I know he's getting very excited about the State of the Union address. Isn't that interesting? Well, sure enough, it is less than 48 hours away and under 35 hours away, and I'm very excited about it too, aren't you? Yeah. We're going to give you a primer for that tomorrow night, but I thought we'd kind of give a preview of, or even just a little background to what has led up to the State of the Union for this year, today, and then we'll preview what we know about it tomorrow. We could do that today too, but you know what I mean. And I have a guide for you all. Very interesting. I did not consult for the guide. It was nothing political. In fact, I actually had to seek information from the medical community. More on that in a few. Any more on Hillary? Why? Why? What difference does it make? The fact is, when they continue to try the strategy of, oh, no big deal, oh, it's a mistake, and mistakes were made. I love that one. Never accountability with that one. People will have to address it. They've tried a number of different strategies to rewrite history and not focus on who is accountable. And when you look back, you certainly see that President Obama and Hillary Clinton, the President and Secretary of State certainly, were contradicted statements with the number 2 guy on the ground there, who was second only to Chris Stevens, Gregory Hicks, in sworn testimony. I was thinking about this today. Do the facts matter? They do. They do. It's people's awareness And then you go with low information voters and a whole host of things in regard to that. And you say, well, does it matter? I mean, it's easy to get demoralized, right? Easy to buy into the fact that, hey, the president, he has an agenda. He's been reelected. And the policies that many believe, including myself, the policies that I see out of this administration hurting America, our culture, our ability for Americans to get a job and make a living, our ability to defend ourselves. It's all hurting it. Doesn't matter. It does. And you can tell because of how they respond to people that criticize them. They don't respond to the criticism in the sense of the substance. No, they make it personal and they demagogue it and they ascribe a whole host of things to groups that have organized in order to express themselves politically. That would be the Tea Party. And they try to silence them. We have now editing coming from the mainstream media, and it's awful and it's beautiful at the same time. How is it beautiful, Grain? How is it? I don't find this amusing. I'm not laughing like, ha ha. No, it's something we've talked about for so long, and now they just keep getting more aggressive in their tactics. Let me explain. Well, let's first go to a clip, and I will expect any change in the video. Please let me know. That'd be great. Thank you. All right. And I would like to begin with a wrap of the Sunday show, specifically Jonathan Carl and a couple questions that he asked Jay Carney, citing the fact that poll numbers say America doesn't trust the president. And then moving on to Obamacare, and if they lose the Senate, that being the Democrats lose the Senate in 2014, was it worth it because of Obamacare being an absolute disaster? Listen to Jay Carney on the economics and the political impact. Roll it.
How can the president lead when barely a third trusts his ability to make the right decisions?
John, I think what we saw last year in 2013 was a Washington that did not deliver for the American people. And the president sees this as a year of action to work with Congress where he can and to bypass Congress where necessary to lift folks who want to come up into the middle class.
Will it have been worth it if you lose the Senate? I mean, you already lost the House because of the health care law.
I'll tell you what.
Will it have been worth it politically?
Expanding access to quality and affordable health insurance to millions of Americans, reducing the growth in health care costs, which is happening.
Would it have been worth it if you lose the Senate? That's a simple...
This is not about politics. So the answer is, it is absolutely worth it, no matter what happens.
Even if you lose the Senate.
Because and I tell you, and I just disagree that Republicans are going to have a winning issue on this if they decide to run on it, because they got to explain what repeal means.
Okay, that's fine. Republicans have their own job, and they oftentimes shoot themselves in the foot anyway. I don't want to make this about D's and R's. I just want to point out the reason the healthcare costs have slowed is because of a recession. I guess we could really do well with slowing healthcare costs as long as we get a depression. I mean, wouldn't that be great? We could really slow them down. I mean, that's how absurd it is. One should realize he's citing something, taking credit for it, and it's because of a bad economy. It's not because he bent the cost curve through Obamacare. Dan Pfeiffer, equally delusional, quite frankly. White House, President's advisor. And he was on Fox News Sunday. And Chris Wallace reads a litany of concerns that so many of us have when it comes to this president, and that would be his record. You see, this is what I mean when I say it doesn't take an Einstein or James Carville to beat somebody like President Obama or any liberal in a debate. All it takes is a fair hearing and just stating the facts. So I say that because what you're about to hear with with Dan Pfeiffer from Chris Wallace asking him and going over how bad things are. And guess what? What do you think Dan Pfeiffer does? When he's given the record, what do you think happens when they have to blame? This is one of the reasons, and I'll talk about this a little later, why I had to seek the medical, psychological side of things when dealing with a political issue in communications. They all kind of merge at some point, but especially with this administration. Roll it.
A stronger, more robust economy and recovery solve a lot of these problems the president is talking about.
Well, absolutely, but I think it's important to remember this president inherited the worst economic situation since the Great Depression, a financial crisis.
But the recession ended 4 years ago.
Yes, and we have created, in the last 46 months, 8 million jobs. The unemployment rate has dropped to 6.7%. We're now producing more oil than before. The American auto industry is #1 in the world again. We are making progress, but there is more to do, and that's what you hear the president talk about.
No, you say...
And I think it's important to remember that what we're trying to do here is restore opportunity for all Americans, grow the economy, and create jobs.
But you talk about restoring median household income is down, labor force participation is down, food stamps are up, poverty rate is up. If things are so great, how come they're so lousy?
I think we've made tremendous progress, but there's much more work to do. That's what the president has always said that. The American businesses, American workers are doing the right thing. Washington needs to help them, and we have a series of proposals from last year and additional ones this year that will help. These are things that have been bipartisan in the past, like raising the minimum wage, infrastructure. If Congress were to do that, we would make tremendous progress. This can be a year of action. And we can make real progress, but we have to do it together. And if Congress doesn't act, the president will.
There you go again, Dan, Mr. President, however you want to put it. Spokesman on the left who obviously, again, are repeating the promise of tomorrow, expecting you to forget they've been there for 5 years, had both houses of Congress and passed their agenda, including an $850 billion, which comes to about $1 trillion plus now, Recovery Act, highlighting infrastructure, which took between 3% and 6%, go 9% at most. And remember, those jobs are those are through a federal government, Davis-Bacon way of gaining labor and doing it. And that means, in essence, it's rewarding unions at higher costs with more delays. I mean, really? You're going to come back and say we just need to get these 5 things done and we'll bypass Congress if possible and when needed? Really? Well, Dan Pfeiffer addressed the health care, Obamacare with Chris Wallace. Roll it.
If you go back and read the papers for the last decade, you will read stories every day of employers making the same decision. What is different now is that if your employer makes that decision, you have guaranteed access to affordable health care.
You're not suggesting, though, that Trader Joe's and Target and Home Depot and Walgreens, which just announced that they're going to throw people into the exchanges, that it has nothing to do with Obamacare.
They can explain what their reasons are. What I'm saying is that if your employer makes a decision, you have guaranteed access to affordable health care with better benefits than you had before.
Really? That's really... Okay, so you're repeating that. People have lost their health care coverage. You, in essence, are putting the insurance companies out of business and expecting a taxpayer payoff, and you're going to tell us it's better than before, and it's just like everything else when it comes to people being laid off, actually. And I guess that's the reason they moved to part-time, too. You could go down the list. I mean, Dan Pfeiffer sounds foolish because what he is saying is foolish. And they just keep going with it. Imagine if somebody came in, took your business investment, took the money that you've earned, came back, lost the money, came back, wanted more money, and then just never addressed the problems with their plan of investment. Merely came back and just repeated the things they said they were going to do the first time. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're doing it to you, me, and our children. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, proudly on AFR Talk. Mike Huckabee debates Chuck Schumer. Sort of. Next, AFR Talk.